I can speak for a long time on elections in Oklahoma. It's dear to my heart. I've been in the election system for 30 years. And I came in just after we started with voting devices and machines. Prior to that, it was hand count. So I was lucky enough to get in on the new equipment, and we've changed machines a couple of times since we started with the voting devices in 1990. Each time we change in Oklahoma, they do a lot of research on the voting devices to make sure that we get the best voting device possible. One of the things that's really secure about voting devices and elections in Oklahoma is the fact that we have a paper ballot. When you feed your vote into the machine, it doesn't just go into the machine. We have a paper ballot as a backup. And those ballots are sealed after every election, and we have security after every election for contests or anything like that. Oklahoma's election system is one of the best in the nation. We are studied by other states, and some states make changes, others don't make changes, partially because it's a financial thing. And I think back in 1990, when Lance Ward was a state election board secretary and made the huge decision to bring all 77 counties into the state election board, and every county in Oklahoma does the exact same thing for elections. We train our precinct officials exactly the same. Every polling booth or every polling registration polling place is handled exactly the same way, with the same forms, the same rules. Everything across Oklahoma is the same way. So if you're a precinct official in Oklahoma and you live in Kay County and you're a precinct official in Kay County, you could be a precinct official in Oklahoma County also, because it's the same training, it's handled the same exact way. One of the things I'd like to discuss is our need for precinct officials in Oklahoma. And that's just across the state. COVID has made it really difficult to find precinct officials to be able to work in elections. A lot of our precinct workers are older. They've done it for 25 years on their own, and when COVID came about, they were really afraid of catching COVID, and I can't blame them for that, but we still had to conduct elections. So we've done a lot of emergency training of precinct officials, calling friends and neighbors. But one of the things that the state did was to allow us to use precinct officials in different localities. Like if Ponca City precinct officials are not having an election, they could work in Tonkawa, or they could work in Ponca. Or in Blackwell. They've had the exact same training. So it's very concise, and we can use those from time to time. But we have 28 precincts in Kay County, and we have 26 actual precincts, and 2 precincts are sub-precincts that they don't have precinct officials in there because it's a rural precinct. We don't have a polling place. We don't have precinct officials to work. So that precinct goes to the next door precinct to vote. Precinct officials is a huge need. It's really easy to become a precinct official. If you contact the state or the county election board, we can get you signed up. We do training every 2 years. It's mandatory training. It's a 4-hour training, 3 to 4 hour training. The state does pay you for that. And in that 4-hour training, we set up like a polling booth. We set up a precinct, and we train the precinct officials hands-on so that they know what they're doing when it comes to election day. So that happens every 2 years, and they'll be doing that again in April. And so that we are hoping to have a big precinct official drive in Kay County. The chamber is working with us hand by hand. Businesses, and this will work great for this organization, businesses can allow their precincts, their workers, to work at an election polling place. you can give them that time off, and we can pay them to work that day at the polling place. They can take a vacation day. Now, for city government, county government, and state government, they cannot draw their salary, but they could take a personal day. But for local businesses, you could let one of your employees off for the day, and we could pay them for the day of working at a polling place. The hours at a polling place are like, you have to be there at 6:30 in the morning, and you cannot leave the polling place until the polls are closed and everything is gathered up and taken back to the election board on election day. And so that's like 7:30, and if you're an inspector, you might not get there till 8. There is pay involved. You do get $100 if you're a judge or clerk. You get $110 for the day if you're an inspector. But the inspector comes to the office and picks up all the supplies and brings them back on election night. So I would encourage you, if you have an opportunity to be a precinct official or have a parent that's retired and looking for something to do, to volunteer for something, we would love to have precinct officials for our training in April. And the VOTEC has been generous to let us use this facility to do our precinct official training every 2 years. We've been able to use the VOTEC, the seminar center. And we have several different sessions. It's like we have 5 days that we do sessions, morning and afternoon. And so that's a little about precinct officials. One of the things I also would like to talk to you about is registration in Kay County. Our registration, voter registration is up in Kay County mostly because of the November elections. The presidential elections is always up in that year. We actually got up to 25,300 and some voters, and that's a benefit to Kay County. And the reason that's a benefit to Kay County is because when you have more than 25,000 voters or more than 1,000 square miles in a county, you can have 2 in-person absentee voting locations. So for these past years, Kay County's registration has been below the 25,000, and we have 995 square miles. So we fell below, and we weren't able to have 2 polling locations for in-person voting. When you get up to 25,000, you're allowed to have another polling location. So I spoke with Craig Stevenson at the City of Ponca. He was excited to have a polling place, or an in-person voting place in Ponca City. And that being the biggest municipality, we felt like that's a good location to have an additional polling place for in-person voting. The situation is the election board keeps their voter rolls cleaned up, and so every 2 years they do a true duplicate report and they do a potential deletion report. And if your registration shows up in Kay County and in Payne County, then they take the most recent registration and they delete the old one off the system. And that's when they're confirming true duplicates in Kay County or in the state of Oklahoma. That's how we keep our voter registration rolls cleaned up. Also, if you don't vote, if somebody is a registered voter and they don't vote in 2 general elections or any time in between, they send out what is called a confirmation notice to the voters, and if they don't respond to that confirmation notice, then they are deleted from the rolls. So this is the off year, and this is the year that all is happening. And so this year in Kay County, we removed 1,332 registered voters in Kay County that had either not been active or had moved out of the county and hadn't notified us and moved into another county. So with that, it dropped us just below the 25,000 registered voter list. So we're doing a registration drive also, so that we want to get the registration up in Kay County so that we can have that additional in-person voting place, because that would save the residents of Ponca City. Tonkawa at this time has to drive all the way to Newkirk to do in-person voting, voters in Tonkawa. They could just come to Ponca City. It'd be better for all voters in K County if we could have that additional polling place. But the main reason is that your vote is important. It's important to democracy. It's important for how your cities run. It's important for how your school districts run. It's important for how your state is run, and it's important on the federal level. So I can't stress the importance of voting. What I saw here when we took this 1,332 voters off is that that's 1,332 voters who no longer are voting. And why are they not voting? It's important to try to determine why those people are not voting. Are you getting the message out about elections? Are you getting the message out about election day and the availability of in-person voting or mail-in absentee? We try to get the message out from the election board with notifying the newspapers, notifying the radio stations, and you may hear some radio ads or see ads in the newspaper about elections coming up and when in-person absentee voting. It's really important to make an effort to go to the polls and vote in every election because, as Robert said, our turnout in K County, and it's not just K County, it's all across Oklahoma, it's low. Our voting turnout in Oklahoma is low. You know, some of the issues, you know, you can talk to voters and say, well, there's no one to vote for. It's important that we have candidates. So if anybody has even an idea that they'd like to be a candidate for a school board, jump in and be a part of your community. Jump in and run for state representative, run for Senate, run for your local offices, your municipal offices. You know, always, you know, that's where the grassroots of the organizations start. That's how you make a difference in your community. So it's really important to get out to vote. It's important to have good candidates in elections. A lot of times, and this has happened many times in K County, and it's in other counties too, of course you're happy with your candidates that are in place for the most part, but when it comes to elections, it's good to have someone of the other party to vote on. I mean, one of the things that was brought to my attention was they say, well, in K County, there's only Republicans on the ticket. Republicans are the only ones running. So, you know, and libertarians have the opportunity to run for office. Independent voters have the opportunity to run for office, as well as Democrat voters have the opportunity to run for office. So if you're interested in running for office, do that. It's going to stimulate the voters. There's going to get the issues out for your community, and don't be afraid to take a step out there and make a difference in your county. So let's see. We have 25,531 voters in Oklahoma, and now they are all active voters because they just deleted all. Well, actually, no, those are not. That's less than 13,000 or 1,332 voters who were deleted from the list. So we're just under 25,000 voters in Oklahoma and are in K County, and we'd like to get that registration back up. So let's see. Oh, one of the things that Robert mentioned just a little bit ago, I have been with the county election board for 28 years. 2 years prior to that, I was in the county treasurer's office. But I have been with the county election board for 28 years, and I have chosen to retire. So as of June 30, I will be retiring, and my assistant secretary, who has been with the election board for 27 years, is stepping up to fill that position. And we have a county registration clerk who is going to step up and be the assistant. So the office is going to run smoothly, but I won't be there after June 30. But I'm happy to help you with any questions, and Carol will also. Her name is Carol Leeming. So she has been in there. You probably all met her at some meeting or another, but she will do a great job, and I'm thrilled to announce that she will be the new secretary beginning July 1. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call your county election board. We have answers to a lot of questions: where you go vote, how you register. If you're having a problem at the polling place, don't hesitate to ask us. Another thing that the chamber is doing in the near future is they're going to make a video and get it out there on their chamber blast about voting, so that those voters who don't know how to vote, we've even had 30-year-old people who say, I don't know how to vote and I don't want to be embarrassed at the polls. So we discussed that, and they're going to do a video that that they can run during election times through their chamber, and it will show you how easy it is to vote. The main thing you have to have when you go vote is your voter identification card. If you have a voter identification card or a state of Oklahoma ID, we can find you in our system. And if you're turned away at the polls, always call the county election board. Don't let them turn you away and say, I can't find you on the voter registration rolls. If you think you're there, call the county election board. Have the precinct officials call the county election board. Because sometimes it just takes another younger, somebody that's not stressed at the polling place to find your registration. We can look it up online and find you right away.
Easy on that younger.
Well, as I said, our precinct officials are getting older. We have some 80-some year and they're even into their 90s that are still working with us because they're dedicated poll workers. They've been doing it for 25 or 30 years. And they are efficient and they are dedicated. And that's what it takes, really somebody with dedication. You can't wake up on election morning and say, I don't want to go, it's 6:30, and then call in. I mean, we have to be able to depend on you to be there for the polling place. So that is a dedication to the job. And it makes you feel good when you get to see all your neighbors on election day. Because if you're doing it in your precinct, all your neighbors are coming in there to vote, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So.
Cheryl, I
Yes.
just wanted to say I applaud you for getting with the chamber and doing that. I think it's on May 13th here at Pioneer Tech.
Yes, they're going to
set up a mock election and
Yes.
video that. I think that's really nice for people to see how easy it is.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about elections in Oklahoma or anything that we're doing in Oklahoma?
And you do have some posters available. I'd like to have some for some of the businesses I represent. We received some posters from the state of Oklahoma that say, register to vote here now. And you can post that in your business and then set some voter registration forms underneath it. And the voters can fill those out. And now it's recommended that the voters mail those in themselves. Because the most important thing about getting registered to vote is to be registered in time for the next coming election. And there is a 24-day cutoff before every election. You have to be registered at least 24 days before every election. So the state election board recommend that the voters turn those voter registrations in themselves so that it's not left up to a business to have to turn those in. But the business, if they choose, can take them and mail them to the county election board every Friday. That's when they have to be sent to us by every week. We have to get those registrations in so that we have them in time before an election. But I'm going to provide those forms to Robert and also to the chamber. So you may see those in your businesses as you go around K County. In the near future, there may be a registration table where you can make an address change, you can make a name change, you can make a party change. So the registrations will be out there for the voters, and we hope you will take advantage of it. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Yes.
What is the procedure if you're not showing up on that roll when you go to vote?
Okay. What they do, I mean, like if it's a partisan election, they'll have 3 different registries. They'll have a Republican registry, a Democratic registry, and an independent registry. And if you don't show, let's assume you think you are a Democrat and they look for you in the Democrat rolls. They don't find you in the Democrat rolls, then they would look for you in the Republican book, then they would look in the independent book. Then their instruction is to call us at the election board, and we can check your voter registration to see if you have moved and not changed your address, or you did change your address at the DPS and didn't remember doing it, and so you're at a different location. We can see where in K County you're registered to vote. We can also look at on our election system and find out when was the last time you voted. If you were one of those 1,300, not saying that you are, but if you were one of those 1,300 deleted from the rolls, your option then would be to go ahead and register again at the polling place. You can register. Tag agencies you can register. DPS you can register. And DPS is pretty new. They've just started allowing everybody, if they ask you if you want to register to vote, and then they send that information to the county election board, and then we send you out a voter registration card. So that is a good thing that has happened in the last couple of years, is that DPS is now allowing you, when you go to get your driver's license renewed or whatever, to register to vote.
And they are asking, I was getting my tag renewed, and I heard them ask somebody that was
Mhm.
getting their driver's license if they were registered to vote.
So,
that's a good
and you
thing.
can make an address, and when you go in to change your driver's license address or get a new driver's license, that'll also update your voter registration address. So that's something that you didn't remember updating your voter registration address, but that DPS form updated your voter registration address. So there's lots of different things we can do, but don't ever just give up. Also, there's a provisional ballot. In Oklahoma, we have a provisional ballot system, whereas if they can't find you on the rolls, and we can't find you in our system at the election board, maybe you registered at a tag agency and it didn't ever get to the county election board to get that entered in our system, just simply because of transit, because it goes to Oklahoma State Election Board first and then to the county election board. It could be just that it didn't get to us in time, and so that you're not active. You can always vote a provisional ballot, which that is a ballot you don't put in the machine. You have to fill out a form giving us your registration information. We ask for you to fill out a voter registration form in case we don't have that on you. But you can vote a provisional ballot, and it's put in a secrecy envelope and sealed and brought back to the election board. And then in the 3 days after an election, we go through the provisional ballot, through the information on the forms that you gave us. We do all of our research in those 3 days and determine whether we can count a vote on Friday. If we can count your vote, if we find out that it came in late or it should have been here in time, we can go ahead and count that vote as the board on Friday night and read that into the machine and then add that to the totals before it's certified. That's why when you get totals in the newspaper, it says it's unofficial until Friday at 5, because it gives us those 3 days to check provisional ballots and see if any of those can be counted and added to the votes cast. And then we certify it at 5 o'clock on Friday. I was going to say something else about the provisional ballots, but I cannot. It went out of my head.
I had a friend, he unfortunately was registered to vote in Kansas, and they declined him at the polls. Afterwards, I made him register in Oklahoma, because he lives here and owns property. So I was curious what that process was.
You do have to be a registered voter in your precinct to be able to vote. If you're registered in Payne County, you can't vote in K County. You have to go back to Payne County to vote if that's where your registration is. So county to county, we check county to county if somebody registers in Payne County. At the end of the month, we get a monthly report of all of the people who have passed away from the Department of Health, and a monthly report of all the people who have registered in another county, but the system they registered there, but it notifies us that they registered in Payne County, and then we remove you off our rolls in K County. So if we can determine that it's a true duplicate, that you are registered by your birth date, your name and birth date match, your last four of your social match. We do certain things to match, and then you would be removed in this county. We have a lot of students who are registered in K County, moved to college, like Stillwater, and then came home after Stillwater, but their registration's still in Stillwater, so they would have to drive back to Stillwater until they made that registration change to get their address changed back to K County. One of the things about Oklahoma's election system also is that all 77 counties do the exact same. We have the same machines, the same training, everything is the same, and I know I've said that repetitively, but in other states, even surrounding us, their counties are individual. They may have a voting device in this county and no paper ballot, and a touch screen in this county and no paper ballot, or they may have hand counting in other states, and that's why it's really frustrating to hear all the election stuff on the news. In other states, I feel like Oklahoma was very advanced when we went and did all 77 counties do the exact same thing. But when that happened, our legislature paid for the voting devices. They didn't leave that up to the counties to purchase. They paid for they pay for the training. The state election board is an organization in itself. In other states, and I think Kansas is one, and I think Texas is one, that they do it individually different in every county. But the county is responsible for buying the voting devices, and they're responsible for all the training, and it's done county by county, and it's different in every county. So that's one of the other great things about it in Oklahoma. All 77 counties do it the exact same. So if you have a question about voting, I could answer a question about voting in Tulsa County, because it's all handled the exact same way, which makes it a great election system. Oklahoma's is the best. So, any other questions? Yes.
How did you get into King County election? Like, was there an ad in the newspaper you thought, yeah?
Okay, so I went to work. I was involved politically in my local town of Tonkawa, and one of the candidates that ran for treasurer got elected. And going along, and a year or two later, she called me because I'd met her in the campaign. She called me and said, "I'm looking for a school district treasurer. Would you be interested in that position?" And I took it right away because I liked this particular candidate. It was Betty Greenwood. She got me into the county. So I took the position, and I worked for the treasurer's office for 2 years. Then the opening came in the election board, which is downstairs in the courthouse. And I applied, and I got hired. What I did in the treasurer's office was the accounting for school districts. And so I got hired to do the assistant secretary job in the county election board when I applied, because I had the accounting experience. And I just never left it. It was in my blood to be in the election system, I think, and I just love that position. So that's how I acquired the job. Now, we do post for openings at the election board. It's a small office. Our office has 3 people. Cleveland County has 25 people. Grant County has 2 people. So it's a small office. And if you love your job, there's not a lot of turnover. As I said, Carol Leeming's been there for 27 years. I was there for 28 years in the election board. And the other girl that's working in our office has been there 7 years. So It's a good working environment. I would say the courthouse has a great working environment. All the employees in the courthouse all get along. With open door policies with all the offices, and it's a great place to work for K County. So, anything else?
What can the community do to help your job?
Recruit precinct officials. That is when somebody says, what's the best part of your job and what's the worst part of your job? And I would say the best part of my job is meeting all the people and interacting with the voters, interacting with the precinct officials, and being active. The worst part is not precinct officials per se, it's the lack of precinct officials. Because when it comes close to election day, I was just in another county. As Robert said, I became a regional coordinator a year ago, and it's great. I love doing that. I get to go out in other counties of Oklahoma and meet their election boards. But I was in another county this last week, and they are also retiring June 30th, and they have an election July 14th. So the news secretary that's coming into that county, I asked the girls that were there and fixing to retire, I said, well, do you have all your precinct officials in place? She says, yes, all but one. And that's the hardest thing, is to get the precinct officials in place. And then there's always the issue of having substitute precinct officials that may not work every election, but they fill in. If somebody calls in at 6:30 in the morning and says, I'm sick, I can't work, then you've got to have a list of people that you could call. And one of the other things about precinct officials is it has to be opposite parties. You have to have a Democrat in the precinct and a Republican in the precinct. So out of the 3 precinct officials, you have to have a Democrat and a Republican. So it makes a difference in whether we have a list of both parties that we can call on, because you don't know which one might be sick. So that is the biggest thing the community could do would be get the word out to your family and friends. If you've got a friend that's not working and just wants to make a little money, they get paid election night. I mean, we send out the check. At the end of the night, they would get $100. I mean, that may help somebody in their pay, a young person who's not working right now. They have to be registered to vote, and they have to be dedicated, and they need to be willing to sit there for 13 hours. It's a long day, and $100 is not a lot for 13 hours. But it can help somebody out that needed $100 cash for something. They get paid at the end of the night, so. Molly, did you have a question?
No, Robert got it.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. She said she was gonna leave early, make sure that was asked.
Okay, all right. Okay, so is anything else? Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I wish I had brought Carol Leeming with me. I'm derelict in that. I have been out traveling for the last 3 or 4 days in other counties, trying to get my last regional coordinator visits done, and so I haven't been in the office for 2 or 3 days, and I wish I'd have thought, Robert, to bring Carol and introduce her to the group, but she will make a great election board secretary. She's experienced, she'll do a great job, and she's very personable. Don't hesitate to call the office for anything. We have a great crew, and they'll answer any questions you have. Any election questions, any voter questions, they'll answer it. So, thank you very much.